Thank you for helping with my project. Could you say a couple words about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Sunil and I live in Houston. I've been here for 20 odd years in the US, and I just look at future as a possibility of as a field of many possibilities, but at the same time, I don't know if humanity will get there with all its problems. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
You mentioned earlier before we started recording that you're a science fiction buff.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite movies, books, science fiction things?
I tend to, so I don't have one particular author that I like, but I like to read about very utopian kind of situations. I don't like to think of future as just gadgets and things being unreal and so on. But I look at more things like, hey, how can humanity be perfect in the future? Is that even possible? So utopian things like what Star Trek is, right? Star Trek is for me very utopian. Star Wars is very, I hate Star Wars by the way, because it's very unreal and it doesn't feel real. Star Trek can be real, potentially, if you have the technology and so on, because they're very idealistic. Star Wars is not idealistic. It's very, goes into superhero realm, which is not reality. Not that all this is real, but still. That's a little bit about me. But I read more about future and utopian concepts like no poverty and healthcare being so advanced that human beings can live to 200 and so on. Those kind of things interest me more.
It seems like if you look back in like the 90s and maybe the 80s, Star Trek had a lot more kind of cultural pull and awareness than it does now. And it kind of, the sense I have is it provided sort of a shared view of what it would look like if things were good in the future. And it feels like that in today's society, there's like so much out there, but there's really nothing that really occupies that same shared positive view. I was just wondering if you thought there was something that you've come across that might eventually be that, or that has the potential.
I don't think so. So I'm a child of the 80s. Right? So my childhood was, I grew up in the 80s when Star Trek was a big deal. Right? I grew up in India and we were watching Star Trek. I watched every episode very religiously. The problem is, I don't think the imagination of kids my age is being cultivated to such an extent with anything new, right? I don't know, there's nothing to aspire toward. When we talked about Star Trek, we always looked at as, oh my god, look at these possibilities. And you don't have that anymore. I don't know what kids are doing these days. I do know that my own kids never thought about anything to do with space ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, wow.
In spite of having me around.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I watch Star Trek and they would say, okay, yeah, it's nice, but it's very old. You're watching old shows. So I think captivating the younger generation and sort of cultivating their imagination hasn't happened. There's nothing that does that now. Actually, one author comes to mind. There's this author named Ian Douglas. So he writes about these kind of concepts like the write-up. So I wish they took some of his books and made it into either movies or TV shows, because they're incredible.
I'm not familiar with that author. Is there a particular book that you recommend?
If I look in my phone, I can tell you, but I don't have the name right off the top of my head. But I've read about 2 or 3 series of his, and they've always been very captivating because he writes about why humanity would go out into space. What exactly are they going to accomplish? And he talks a lot about the technological singularity. I mean, that is possibly, it could be the most interesting thing or the most debilitating thing, whichever way you look at it.
My children feel like we're either right before that point or just past that point, when they're like, everything's going to be automated. There's not going to be any place for humans. AI is going to take over the world.
Many people think of it that way because, especially with the internet, right? some people say that we've already hit the singularity with the internet, and which changed everything for humanity. I don't know. There's probably a lot more things. Ian Douglas has this thing in his books where he says that technology, at some point, technology can be so advanced it may seem like magic to you.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if we have reached that spot yet. We can still explain a lot of technologies, right? I think the point when you cannot explain is when it reaches the tech singularity that we talked about.
And that kind of works two ways. Either the technology gets beyond our understanding, or our understanding recedes below the basis of the technology.
Both ways.
Yeah. So I mean, people just depending upon technology they don't understand will turn existing technology into magic.
Yes. but I think we can mostly explain a lot of the stuff, right? I think the funniest thing that you cannot explain, which is, oh my God, this guy.
Yeah. He's missing half his front of his car,
Yeah,
so
that scares me.
Yeah, no. Like he has a history.
Yeah. So I think here's the thing that you cannot explain, right? Which is very odd. We've always flown on planes. You just flew on a plane, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you explaining that? Yeah, the physics and theory and all that, but a lot of things you have to see to explain, right?
Yeah.
You're not really seeing anything. The wing is placed in a certain way, and then the wind takes care of the rest, and when you reach at a certain speed, the plane takes off. But it is, that also in a way is magic. But theoretically you can explain it. But so far all technologies mankind has encountered or has discovered can be theoretically explained. So I don't think we've reached the tech singularity yet.
Yeah.
It's my explanation.
Somebody knows. Somebody could explain. Somebody could tell you what will work, what won't work, that type of thing. I guess I wanted to ask you a few questions about the moon. First of all, did you know that NASA's planning to send astronauts back to the moon?
I'd read about it some time ago, I remember, because this was at a time when India and Japan and China and all were trying to do something or the other, and I remember them saying that they want to possibly colonize Mars. Colonize the moon as a base for further exploration beyond and so on. So maybe it was part of that conversation.
And what do you think about us going back to the moon? Is it something that excites you? Is it good?
Yeah, I think it's good. For that same purpose, because all the books that I've read, it treats the moon like as if it's a way station before they get to Earth, and the gravity being lesser and so on. They have a easier time getting out of the moon's gravity well and so on. So I think it makes sense. I would advocate for it, and also it's something exciting for kids to think about. There's nothing these days.
Do you think at some point in the future we have people living their lives off of the Earth, like in space stations or on the moon or on?
I think it's inevitable, because I just read a few days ago that by 2050 we'll have 10 billion people on Earth. Okay? How are you going to house 10 billion people, feed them, cultivate food for all of them to eat, or just plain, where are they going to live? Do we have that much space? So I think it's inevitable that we find our way out to some place. I don't know where that is, but for all that to happen, right, we have to develop a means of transportation that can get us out of this planet system.
Talking about transportation, just from the surface of the Earth into space, have you been following what SpaceX has been doing down there near Brownsville with the Starship?
To some extent, yeah. Even though, sorry, I'm not very fond of that person.
I know. It's a mixed bag, isn't it?
Yeah. Very hard for me to accept that person can do anything good.
Yes. I know it's a challenge.
But yeah, I have. But that would be the classic scenario where it's in the wrong hands, and it's being developed by the wrong person. Yes, but it's being developed. I do get it. Yeah, I have been following it to some extent.
If you could, would you take a trip to space?
I would, yeah. Provided I'm physically able to. Yeah, I will. Because I'm I'm a very curious person naturally, so I would.
You think you'll get a chance in your lifetime?
No, I don't think so.
Well, thank you so much for participating in my project. It was such a pleasure to get to talk to you.
No worries. Yeah, appreciate it.